and a warm welcome to today's video. Today we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of 7 popular Charles Schwab ETFs. This video is for entertainment purposes and should not be considered financial advice. The ETFs that we're going to look into today are SCHB, SCHX, SCHG, SCHV, SCHD, SCHA, and SCHM. I really like the naming convention that Charles Schwab uses, as they're pretty easy to remember what everything is. We start off with SCHB, which is the US Broad Market ETF. So SCHB is for broad, and it holds 2,464 companies inside it. The next one is SCHX, which is US Large Cap ETF, and it has 754 holdings. The next two holdings are SCHG, which is the US Large Cap Growth ETF, and the SCHV, which is the US Large Cap Value ETF. These two ETFs together are SCHX. SCHG has 232 holdings. SCHV has 529 holdings, and between the two, they do not have any overlap. The next fund is SCHD, which is the US Dividend Equity ETF. It is a more value-oriented ETF, and we'll see that it has a lot of overlap with SCHV. However, it has 104 holdings versus the 529 holdings that SCHV has. So it is more focused on dividend-paying companies, and there's certain criteria that need to be met to be a part of this ETF, this index. The final two holdings, the final two ETFs are SCHM, which is the US Mid-Cap ETF, which has 502 holdings inside it, and SCHA, which is US Small Cap ETF, which has 1,739 holdings as of December 16th. Here on this side, we can see the percentage holdings and the overlap between the different funds. So the first company we see here, or the first companies that we see are Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Google, Broadcom, and Google. And they're present in SCHB, SCHX, and SCHG. However, you can see that they're not present in any of the other 4 ETFs. Next, we have Berkshire Hathaway and JP Morgan, which are present in SCHB and SCHX. They're not present in SCHG, D, M, or A. However, they are present in SCHV for value. If we look at SCHG and SCHV together, they fit pretty nice together as a jigsaw puzzle. So the companies that exist on SCHG are not in SCHV and vice versa. So every time you see a gap on one side, it's because it's on the other side. One fund that's interesting to analyze is SCHD. SCHD also has no overlap with SCHG. However, it does have significant overlap with SCHV, SCHX, and SCHB, as it would be expected. If we order by this column, we'll see the top holdings that SCHD has. About the top 50 holdings are shared between SCHV and SCHD. So the top holding as of December 16th for SCHD is BlackRock. Then we have Cisco, Home Depot, Bristol Myers, Chevron, Verizon, Texas Instruments, Philip Morris, Ultra Group, and UPS, Pfizer. If we start to scroll down while looking at SCHD, This one doesn't count because it's government money market. We'll start to see that SCHD has also some overlap with SCHM, which is the mid-cap fund. As you can see, SCHG does not have this overlap with the mid-cap in these cases. So when you are investing in SCHV, D, or sometimes even G, you are getting some mid-cap and small-cap exposure. You're not getting too much of that exposure when investing in SCHX, although there is a little bit of overlap. The next fund that we're going to look into is SCHM, which is the mid-cap ETF. The mid-cap ETF has about 500 holdings. And as you can see, as expected, there's overlap with SCHB, and there's also some overlap with SCHX, which was supposed to be a US large cap ETF. But as you can see, there are quite a few companies like United Airlines, Robinhood, EQT, and so on that are present both on SCHM and SCHX and even SCHG. You can also see that there's quite a lot of overlap between SCHM and SCHD and V. And finally, we're going to look at the Charles Schwab Small Cap ETF. This ETF has 1,739 holdings. Once we order by this column, we'll see that it has also some overlap with the mid-cap ETF. Of course, it has overlap with the broad market ETF because it's the one-stop shop to get exposure to the US market. And as we scroll down, we'll see that there's even some overlap with SCHD. For example, here we have these two companies. We continue to scroll down. We have Whirlpool with overlap with SCHM and SCHA. Again, another overlap with SCHD, which is Columbia banking system. And once again, Janus Henderson Group. There's overlap between SCHD and SCHA and M. So this is to say that if you are invested in SCHD, you already have some exposure to mid-cap and small-cap companies because of their quality dividend payments. Finally, we can look into the sector exposure of each one of these ETFs. So the top three sectors for SCHB are information technologies, financials, and consumer discretionary. When we look into information technology, we see that these are the top companies. When we go on to financials, we see that the top companies are Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, Visa, MasterCard. Interestingly, Visa and MasterCard are on the growth side of SCHX. And consumer discretionary, we have Amazon, Tesla, Home Depot, McDonald's. Similarly to SCHB, the top three sectors of SCHX are information technology, financials, and consumer discretionary. For SCHG, now it changes a bit. We have a much bigger exposure to information technology. It goes up from 30% in SCHB to 46% in SCHG. Then we have consumer discretionary and communication services. In the case of SCHV, the top sectors are financials, industrials, and healthcare. And next comes consumer staples. And in the fifth position, we have information technology. For SCHD, the dividend ETF, the top sector is financials with 20%, healthcare, consumer staples, industrials, and energy. When we move on to SCHA, the top sectors are financials, industrials, and information technology. And finally, in the case of SCHM, the top sectors are industrials, financials, consumer discretionary, and in the fourth spot, we have information technology. I hope this video was interesting and useful for you. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. And I hope to meet again for a new video. Thank you for your attention.